All right, hey, this is pgosey with my discussion on collapse, this week's article. So basically, what I got from the article was that it was talking about Easter Island and how the civilization, like their rise and fall. And I'm basically going to compare that to like the rise and fall of being in a band and like the whole band function. So basically, in the article, it was talking about how there are like many contributing factors like deforestation and like the environment and just how their location of the location of the islands that caused them to end up collapsing and civilization just kind of destroying itself. And basically, I feel like that can be compared a lot to being in a band because to be in a band and actually get somewhere and make it big, there's a lot of predetermined attributes and situations that you have to be in to make it work. Like my old producer, this guy named Dan Book, who used to play in this band called Voodoo Blue. They broke up a few years ago, but they used to be really big. They toured like all over the country and everything. And they're really good friends with this other band, All Time Low. So like we would be at the studio doing some recording, like All Time Low would show up, and so we got like to see kind of the experience of how they rose to stardom and compared to like Voodoo Blue and their collapse. And a lot of it, the first thing is really um, a lot of it had to do with money. Like the in All Time Low, Alex Cathcart, their lead singer and guitarist, his father owned Polk Audio, I believe it was, and sold it right before they started to become a band. So they had a lot of money. So they were able to get their name out there, just kind of display themselves, promote themselves. Whereas like other bands like Voodoo Blue, they didn't have a lot of money. Dan was telling me one year at a Warp Tour, it was like the first year All Time Low had ever played, and this was like Voodoo Blue had been around for a few years. They were like, I don't know if they were headlining or they were playing high up there. And he said they had like their like $500 bought from Home Depot like tent that they had their merch set up in, and maybe that day they said they sold like he said maybe like $500 worth of t-shirts and CDs and stuff, which is pretty good. But he said they were set next to All Time Low, who were like this was their first time playing Warped Tour. Like they were big locally, but nationally they were still nobodies. So he said they had this huge like elaborate tent with like their CD design all over the back. They had like all these big banners, like everything professionally done, just because they had the money to do that. And he said they so many people went there and bought stuff just because it looked professional instead of like Voodoo Blue being spray painted on the top of a tent. Like he said they sold easily $10,000 worth of merch that day. So that's like a circumstance like compared to the Islanders. Like they were born onto this island where they didn't have as many resources as other people, like say the Europeans. Like in this one, Voodoo Blues the Europeans, or Voodoo Blues the Eastern Islanders, and Altemo's the Europeans. Like just because where they were born, their the circumstances they had, they were given a better shot. And it's another similarity I was kind of comparing it to is the actual being in a band and like interacting with the other members, because you have to a lot of the times I wanted to compare it to like the deforestation issue where like they weren't really Easter Islanders weren't careful and just kind of took all their trees away, depleted all their resources, and they didn't like think it and handle it. Like I'm not sure if maturely is the right word, but they could have handled it better. And like the same goes with being in a band. Like in my band, me and like the other guys, we get in fights a lot. We've actually like gotten fist fights, like hit each other in the face, like all out brawls. But we like now we're much more mature. We decided like how to solve our arguments, fix our problems, handle it better. So if you just get it to the point where you keep arguing and fighting with each other, it's all going to fall apart and you're not going to get anywhere. So that's just if you don't plan well and don't think things through and don't learn to get along. Because, like, in the end, the Eastern Islanders ran out of resources, resorted to cannibalism and other stuff like that, like killing each other. All they did was fight. Like, that's how, if you're in a band, you have to be able to get along with everyone. You have to handle everything professionally and maturely. And that's how I think that compares. Um, let's see. Another one I had was I can't think of it now. Oh yeah, no, I got it. Like comparing it to like the whole sorry about that, I forgot. The whole collapse thing, like another comparison of how everything has to like hold together to work is actually like playing a show live in comparison because you have to all most people, I'd say 90% of people that have no musical training, no musical knowledge, all they hear is like the words and the beat. And if that's not on, if something's off beat or if the singer messes up, that's really all a lot of people hear. So if you don't aren't ready, you aren't prepared, like you have the drummer playing to a click track, everyone get their in-ear monitors, get everything leveled right so you can hear one another, listen for all the cues and everything that's going on, it'll just fall apart. Like there have been times where I've played shows where me or someone else will mess up a part and it'll just the whole song will fall apart. Like when we first started, we would play without a click track. It was just the drummer going, so things weren't perfectly on beat. They would get off. Like everyone would mess up, and it would just end up being a whole mess. Like it would collapse, that whole song would fall apart, and it just looks unprofessional. So, yeah, that's another way of it sort of collapses and falls apart if you aren't prepared and aren't ready. So, I guess that's my analysis for comparing music to this article on collapse. So, I'll see you guys later.